Great to speak with you. Um, you're described in the world, Hillel, as a truth ambassador. You have a huge history of being a tech entrepreneur, an advocate for the startup, and now I guess scale up nation of Israel. But after October 7th happened, there was a seismic shift, it seems, in your space. And you've become an Israeli advocate, using your massive social media platform. You tweet something and it goes viral and you reach millions and millions of people. So just to kind of start the conversation, I'm curious, exactly how did the Hamas terrorist attack on October 7th change the trajectory of your life?
Sure. So first of all, thank you for having me, and I have to admire your nice glasses because they're pretty much identical to mine. So we have good taste.
Yalla.
Just kind of 2 seconds of background. I was born in New York, in Queens, moved to Israel 30 years ago as a kid. Always had a very deep passion for technology, and I'm talking well before it was cool to love technology. And really, I just started what we call today blogging, just writing on the internet, basically. And one thing led to another, and I built myself, a multi-million-dollar consulting business, working with companies from small, startups in their garage to Google and Microsoft and Oracle. And really, the expression of when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life was written about me. I was a kid in a candy store every day and really just living the dream. Over the years, I did build quite a sizable audience on social media as the tech guy. And, I built trust, I built a reputation, and I leveraged that trust and that reputation in my career. October 7th gave me something that I think many people do not experience ever in their lifetime, and that is complete and total clarity. I had complete clarity what I needed to do and what I needed not to do. And it was clear to me that now was not the time for consulting and tech and marketing. And so I shut down my business that day, and took all of my time and resources and just repurposed them and reallocated them to leverage that audience and that trust to help defend Israel on the internet. And so since October 7th, my mission has been twofold. The first part of my mission has been to be a source of reliable information in real time, right? So accurate and real time or reliable and real time usually are mutually exclusive, because if it's real time, you don't have time to verify it. And if you're going to verify it, it won't be real time. But my ability to cross-reference various formal sources of information enables me to share things that, with very few exceptions, have been spot on. And so many people, look to me as their news source, basically, since October 7th. The second part of my mission has been inward, has been to give us, our team, our people, a reason to get up in the morning. And we're all deep in mourning and devastation, and we all need a reason to get up in the morning. And so if I could provide that, whether it's milestones in the war, whether it's inspirational videos, whether it's a beautiful story that happened, or whatever it may be, I try to be a positive force in people's lives. I try to be a source of positive news. And it sounds a lot easier than it is because there's a lot of negativity, right? So that's what I've been focused on. And I'm gonna, if I may, toot my own horn. I'm pretty proud of what I've accomplished in this war because, again, with very few exceptions, I've been accurate. And I think that the two things that I'm most proud of, I would say, are one, that I have not lost my cool once. Right? I'm getting an unmanageable, absolutely insane amount of hate on the internet. From calls of genocide and not Heil Hitler to actual horrible threats and really horrible stuff. And almost on a daily basis, I'll respond, or I'll write a response, and then before I hit respond, where I hit post, I'll delete that tweet because there's just no point. And they're calling names and they're going at me personal. I'm just focused on facts. So that's one thing that I'm very proud of, and it's not been easy, if I'm going to be totally honest. And the second thing I'm very proud of are the people that reached out to me and said to me, "Listen, I wasn't on your side. I literally, I did not know. I thought Zionism was racism, and you just educated me." And I've gotten, I don't know, probably close to 1,000 messages from people over the war that said to me, "You simply opened my eyes to an entire other perspective. I did not know any of this. So it's very nice that I'm helping, our echo chamber. And I'm not belittling that, because we all need positivity. But I'm very proud of the fact that I've exited my echo chamber. And the reason I'm able to do that, again, is because I've positioned myself over the years as the tech guy that people trust. And so when the people in Silicon Valley who are not necessarily pro-Israel are dismissing other people who are doing Israel advocacy because they don't know these people, and they just kind of dismiss them as, oh, they're doing hasbara. They know Hillel and they trust Hillel. And so I'm kind of capitalizing on that trust to maybe give people a different point of view on what's going on in the Middle East.
Do you feel like you're changing, you're broadening the tent? Like non-Jews are really starting to understand the anti-Israeli bias in the media? Do you feel like you're getting that kind of feedback on your tweets?
So it's a good question. The way I see it, there are three groups on the internet, right? There's our group, which, we don't need convincing, but we need reinforcing, we need strengthening. Then there's the opposite group, who I call the Heil Hitler folks, who, you write them off because there's no talking to these people, right? You can show them that the sky is blue, they won't listen to you. They're just not. So I wrote those people off, and once in a while when I get a message from someone in that group that I did change their mind, it's a great feeling. But I'm not targeting that group because, again, there's no speaking to these people. The middle group, which based on my anecdotal evidence is by far the majority, are the people that aren't necessarily pro-Israel, but they're people with integrity. They're people with honesty and people who are willing to listen. Those are the people that I'm targeting. And the answer is yes. The answer is, again, I've gotten hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of messages from people saying, I wasn't on your side. I didn't know any of the things that you're telling me, and this is shocking. You say to me that just to give an example, right? We in Silicon Valley or wherever this person is says, we hear about the occupation all day long, how you occupy the Palestinian state and you occupied Gaza, and I say to them, okay, well, are you willing to learn something? And they say, yeah. I say, well, then just open Google and type in the disengagement. And they'll see that in 2005, we left Gaza. We weren't occupying anything. And they're like, holy cow, I did not know that. And I say to them, okay, furthermore, we are occupying an Arab-Palestinian state. And they say, yeah, you've been oppressing them. I say to them, great, I'm totally cool accepting what you're saying. Just answer me one question. When was this Arab-Palestinian state that you talk about so often established? Find me a date. And they'll Google it, and they'll realize there was never an Arab-Palestinian state in history. And so I'm not shoving my truth down people's throats and telling them they're idiots. I'm asking and I'm engaging with their opinions and explaining to them that their opinions are very biased and they're based on, if you're talking about genocide in Gaza, the only source of numbers in Gaza is actually Hamas. So when you quote that Israel killed 40,000 people, you just have to just own the fact that you are actually quoting rapists and pedophiles. And if you're okay with that, that's fine. But if you're not okay with that, then ask yourself where you're getting your information from. And so, again, I'm not convincing anyone. I'm just asking and questioning their narratives. And through that, a lot of people have said to me, wow, you really changed my mind.
Yeah, and I mean, as you say, you leveraged your trust level. It feels like it's an overwhelming tidal wave, though. I mean, I'm in America. I lived in Israel. I'm back in America, and I just cannot believe. I just cannot believe the Gen Z hate for Jews, the Gen Z misinformation, and it feels like we have to debate with everyone. And I'm just wondering how you see the average person who doesn't have a massive following like you do. How's the average person supposed to use their own personal platform and make headway in this? Because it's like swimming
So
upstream.
right. So first of all, there's no solving, quote unquote, the problem that they outnumber us, right? We're not going to outnumber them. They outnumber us, and there's nothing we can do about that. The only thing we can do is stick to truth. And our enemies and the people that are spreading horrible lies, to them, truth is not a virtue. And so we need to stick to truth, even when it's inconvenient, by the way. But to answer your question, I think there's a common misconception, maybe in the premise of your question, which is, I have a small following. How can I influence people? I'm just, talking to my echo chamber. And that's something that, I've heard a million times, and I'm sure you have as well. And I really do believe that that's just a literal lack of knowledge as to how the mechanism of social media works. Because if you write something that is impactful and it's written well, then all it takes is one person from your followers, even if you have 3 followers, all it takes is one person to share that. And now you access that person's followers. You have now exited your echo chamber. So the thought of I only have a small following, there's no point, is just simply inaccurate. It's just wrong. It's just false. You and me and anyone else who I don't care how many followers you have a responsibility to continue to show our moral clarity, to continue to, stand in the way of the world's moral bankruptcy, and to tell the truth. Again, even when it's inconvenient, even if Israel makes a mistake, own it, but don't lie. And, I think at the end of the day, there are millions and millions of people out there who do respect that and who do admire that and who do listen to that. But you and I know, because we're smart enough to understand that the mechanism of media, they make money from clicks, from eyeballs. And let's be honest, no one's clicking on an article that's, oh, look, the Jews are doing a good job. No, they want to vilify the Jews because that's what gets clicks. That's the reality. And so when you see these encampments and you see these, anti-Semitic protests, I'm not denying that they're happening, nor am I denying or belittling the severity of them. But let's just not kid ourselves that that's the majority. It's not even close.
So what do you say to some of the biggest Jew haters and Israel haters being Jewish and using the cover of being Jewish and saying, well, I can say this because as a Jew, for example, I mean, we have a long list. Bernie Sanders comes to mind. Of course, evil George Soros and even Jon Stewart, Hollywood's elite. What do you say to this? How do we address that?
I mean, all you can do is speak the truth. That's all you can do. That's all we have is the truth, right? So, again, when you come at me with claims of genocide, or you come at me with claims of oppression or of occupation, or or ethnic cleansing or apartheid, let's talk about it, right? If you're going to throw that phrase out, you're going to throw that word at me, let's talk about it. And then I'll say to you, if Israel's an apartheid state, why is it that every single state sign in the state of Israel is written in Arabic? And why is it that there are Arabs in the Knesset and there are Arabs in Supreme Courts? I mean, you're going to deny that? Because I'll give you the names of the people. So if you're going to call us an apartheid, please address that question. So my answer is to the people out there who are the biggest haters, I don't think there's any point in arguing or debating facts. All you can do is question their narrative. And if you question their narrative and you poke holes in their narrative, you make them ask themselves the question, then I think that's how you make progress.
Okay. Let me change gears for a second, talk about the future of Israel, like going forward, specifically the Abraham Accords. What do you think would be a win? Okay. Is it Saudi joining the Abraham Accords? What would be a win for Israel in the next phase, in the next chapter of Israel's life? In terms of building friends in the Middle East. I'm just wondering where your head is on something like
you're freezing
that.
up, and I didn't hear the question. Can you repeat it?
Of course. I'm wondering if you can share your thoughts on the future of Israel. Can you hear me okay?
Uh,
Hello?
Jennifer, I don't. You're like totally frozen. I don't know if you can hear me, but I cannot hear you. You're
I
frozen.
think he's frozen. Are you? Oh, okay.
Totally frozen.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, am I still frozen?
You hear me?
I hear you. I hear you. Yes. Can you hear me?
You're now I can, but you're freezing up every other word.
I'm freezing up every other word. My internet
Now
is super
now
strong.
you're frozen again. It's like in and out.
How's your internet? Is your internet okay?
Full connectivity.
Full connectivity. Me too.
Yeah.
Okay. I see you and I hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Okay, let's repeat the last question. We'll start from there.
Okay. Yeah. I want to get your thoughts on how do you see, sorry, let me say it this way. What would you consider a win for Israel in terms of the next phase in the Abraham Accords? Would it be Saudi Arabia joining? Like, how do we coalesce around a strong Israel? Again, growing that tent in the Middle East. What do you think the next move is there?
Yeah, 100%. Saudi Arabia is extremely strategic, for Israel. There's no question about that. But I think that I think if you'd ask me what is the most significant element of the Abraham Accords, of course, the business, collaborations and Dubai, etc. It's great. But to me, by far the most meaningful part of that is that peace is possible. Peace is possible, right? It's just a question of shifting your mindset and not looking at Jews as the villain. And as soon as you do that, prosperity is around the corner. And so, I do hope that the Abraham Accords will continue to expand into to other nations. But first and foremost, I think it's a sign to those that do continue to vilify us that it's not going to get you anywhere. Stop vilifying us and join us, and let's build a prosperous future.
And you see, I know you're a very positive man. You see that as a real possibility. I don't know if you can hear me. Hello? Did we freeze up?
I don't know if you hear me, but you're totally frozen. Like every time, like
I
every other
I
word, you're freezing up.
I don't know. My internet's strong. We're in the studio. Everything is good on that. Yeah? Can you hear me okay?
It's like
Hello?
I mean, I heard the way it sounded was,
Okay.
could you hear? Okay, that's what it sounds like.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
I mean,
Hello?
it's very in and out. I don't know. I don't know what's up. Maybe it's Riverside's servers. I don't know. But
Uh,
I mean, we can continue. I'm assuming you can cut it afterwards, right?
yeah, for sure. For sure we can. Are there storms by you? Is there bad weather? Can you hear me? He can't hear me. You can't hear me?
No,
No?
no storms. I'm in Israel. There's no storms here.
No storms here. All right. Well, we're good. We're good, and there's no storms here. I'm in Miami. Um, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, now
Hello?
I can. But I'm just like,
Okay.
let's start the question again.
Okay, I'm sorry. Um, do you see Russia, China, and maybe Qatar as playing a role in the future of Israel?
I think it's really interesting because there's a lot of talk about World War III, but I don't think in World War One they called it World War One, right? They only called it that afterwards. And meanwhile, if you look at this war right now, and you look at the amount of countries that are participating in this war, whether it's militarily, diplomatically, politically, we're talking about half the world, right? So many countries are taking part in this war. So, one might make the claim that we're in World War III right now. But the reality is that one little move on Israel's part or on Iran's part or whatever can absolutely spark a regional war in which obviously China, Iran, Russia, everyone will participate, and unfortunately not many of them will be on our side. So it's a very big question mark what's going to be tomorrow in this war and the region in general.
In terms of the US election and sort of the daylight between Israel and the US, the perceived daylight, how do you feel about a Kamala Harris administration in terms of supporting Israel in the future?
I'm a pretty opinionated guy, and I recognize that I have strong opinions on some things, but I will say that before I answer your question, I think there's an important point to be made here, and that is that the internet does not facilitate nuance. Right? On the internet, there's the good guy and there's the bad guy. There's no gray. Everything's black and white. Right? You can't say Trump is a narcissist, but he's also a good president, and Biden's a nice guy, but he's a horrible president. You can't say that. It's either good or bad. You either love him or you got to hate him. But that's not how the world works. And so, I think Trump, I would not hire him to babysit my kids, but I think he was a phenomenal president as far as Israel's concerned. Biden seems like a nice guy. I don't know, all the conspiracy theories about him. I don't know what's true. It's not true. He seems like a nice guy. He was a horrible president for Israel. He backstabbed us every chance he got, and he, to discuss an arms embargo in the middle of an existential war. I mean, what kind of ally is that? So, again, it's nuanced. That being said, Kamala Harris, any indication that I've seen seems to point to the fact that she is not a friend of Israel's. And, just the fact that she creates this moral equivalence that she always compares Hamas to Israel. Like, yes, Israel is doing that, but Hamas is doing that. Or Israel shouldn't do that like Hamas shouldn't do it. We're not the same. And drawing an equal sign between Israel and Hamas is just, it's both inaccurate, but it's also dangerous. And so that's something that she's been doing repeatedly. I do not feel confident that if she takes office that it will do anything but irreversible damage to Israel, particularly as it comes to Iran. I mean, the fact that, when Trump left office, Iran was broke, and now they have billions of dollars and are weeks away from the bomb should say everything. I mean, if Iran gets the bomb, Israel shouldn't be the only one that's scared. And so it doesn't seem to me that Kamala understands the geopolitics, the complexity of the geopolitics in the region in the Middle East, and it's a very scary thing because things are very fragile right now, and we need a strong president, and we need a president that, when one of its allies in NATO threatens to invade its ally, right? Turkey
You're
threatened
talking
to
Turkey,
invade Israel. And
right?
a strong administration would have gotten up and said that is unacceptable, but they didn't. And so, to answer your question, I think she's weak. I think she has a very big misunderstanding of the region, and I think it will cause some serious damage, both to Israel and to the region, but also globally, if she wins that election.
It's very likely she could, because the media is scrubbing her past, her history, and she's hip and cool. She's the new female Obama. And I think it's going to be a very, very, very close election. So you've become a legend in your advocacy for Israel. And I just wonder, in 5 years, if we're looking back on this time, what does your next chapter look like for you, do you think? You gonna go back to the tech world? Do you think you'll kind of share the horizon, keeping this strong advocacy? Maybe you'll run for politics?
Definitely not running for politics. That's off the table. That's not happening. As far as what I'll be doing, post-war, it's hard to say. But if you'd ask me now, I don't think that I see myself going back to a pure tech play. I might work with tech companies as long as there is some sort of interface with the state of Israel. But I don't see myself totally abandoning the Israel advocacy world. That's how I see it now, but who knows what will be.
And my last question or two is about the hostages, because we need to talk about that. Do you think soon they will come home one way or another? Is there hope? Do you feel optimistic?
Listen, we have to understand that one of our biggest problems in this war, in my opinion, is that we're taking Western values and we're applying them to radical Islam. Radical Islam does not share our values with us, right? So, a value of, if I treat you with dignity and respect, you'll treat me with dignity and respect. That's something that is at the foundation of Western civilization. Radical Islam does not share that value. And so, you and I, if we would put ourselves in the shoes of those that took the hostages, we would say, well, of course we're not going to kill innocent people. We'll keep them alive. Well, even if you want to be cynical, we'll keep them alive as a bargaining chip. But these are not people with values. These are people who have no morals and no ethics and no values. And so it would be very, very surprising to me if these barbarians in Gaza had the self-control or even the desire to keep these poor hostages fed and taken care of. And really, I hope to God that I'm wrong, but I sadly fear that not many of them are still alive.
You stopped. I'm sorry. To keep the hostages fed, and then you froze.
Yeah, I don't know that I believe that these savages in Gaza have the self-control to keep the hostages alive. And unfortunately, as sad and tragic and horrible as this is to say, if I'm really being honest with myself, I don't really believe that many of them are still alive.
Well, I want to thank you for your time. Is there any last bit of information you can share on Israeli resiliency that maybe the diaspora could use some information, some hope? Is there anything you can share? Because
Yes,
it's all pretty depressing, I have to tell you.
right. It is depressing, but we also have to remember that we're part of a nation that has defied nature. And we are here despite the fact that every single generation we had the Hamas and the Hezbollahs of that generation, and they're all gone. We don't know any Babylonians, do you? I mean, they're gone, as are the Assyrians, as are, all of these ancient Greek, ancient Rome, ancient Egypt, they're all gone, and we're here. And so you look at all of our holidays, they all the same thing. They tried to annihilate us, and we survived, and they didn't. And so that will be the case here as well. We will win this war. Hamas will be no more, and we will come out stronger on the other side. It is a very hard period, a very dark period in our history, but we will be okay. We will win, because Am Yisrael Chai is not just a phrase. It's an actual historical reality. We are alive and we are here, and we will dance again.
Hillel Fuld, thank you so much for spending time with me and enlightening our audience and sharing your thoughts on the future of the amazing country, the most misunderstood country in the world, the state of Israel. Am Yisrael Chai. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to just stop it.